Y'all, Wizard101 just massively upgraded healing in PvE, and barely anybody even knows about this. But what are we talking about, right? Along with the Shadow Spell audit, Wizard101 in the most recent Darkmoor update also audited a bunch of lore spells. We now have 2 new heals for schools that aren't really good at healing. And this isn't just a small upgrade, this is massive. Ice has a new Celestial Intervention that can heal for well over 1,000. And Myth, surprisingly enough, their new updated Grendel's Amends, the one that's not allowed in PvP, can heal for over 1,300 for the simple price of 3 pips and a Myth pip. Now, why is the super heal forward update for ice and myth healing such a big deal? Because these are resist schools, and these aren't even limited to self-heal only. So let's see it in action, right? I'm gonna use this, which essentially heals you more and more the more shields you have on yourself, up to 3 shields. And I'm also gonna summon a minion so that y'all can see what I'm talking about. But this is a very, very cool thing that has just been added recently. So here's what I'm gonna do, right? I'm gonna put some shields on. So these are shields that ideally I get to keep so that I can give them up for healing, which is a part of the ice PvE identity that we've never had. And what y'all might notice is I'm also gonna summon a minion, and when I use this heal, I'm actually gonna be able to target myself or my minion with the heal. Meaning, if I were on a team, I could do this in a team setting as well. So I have a bunch of shields on myself, right? If I were to do this, right, you can see that I can target the minion or myself. I'm going to target the minion. Keep in mind, if I crit, it's a ×2 multiplier because this man's doesn't have block. But because of all of that, this should be doing a really, really massive amount. Something that we've never seen for ice. I bet y'all have never seen this. Look at this. A crit gives up 3 shields so that it has the maximum heal value. And it heals my minion for 3k, meaning 1,500 base ×2 multiplier from critting. This is easily one of my favorite things that they've done in this little lore spell update. Before, Celestial Intervention and Grendel's Amends really were just absorb-based spells. That's kind of what their bottom path version still does. But clearly, this is really beautiful. This is obviously not allowed in PvP because they banned burst heals a long time ago. And also, the heal leveraging schools are Fire, Storm, and Life, and they've also kind of added a little bit of it to balance. But for the sake of balancing reasons, you don't want high resist schools to also have a lot of healing. So this is really, for all intents and purposes, a PvE change in direction. What I think is also really, really cool is there's another aspect to the healing update that y'all are probably more aware of because I've covered it on the channel. But Darkmoor also added shield pins, and these are pins that can give you defense, sure, but they can also give tons of outgoing. In case y'all don't know, the way the game works, you can have up to 2 shield pins on your gear. So basically, right, I'm on my ice right now. If I use the monster hide setup on my hat and boots, I can get access to 2 shield pins. With these new shield pins that just got added, that gives me about 100% outgoing base. Meaning that little 3,000 heal that y'all just saw for basically, you know, doubling my heal, I can essentially do that with these new mending pins. Why is this such a big deal? Because mending pins have also not been available to schools that aren't associated with healing. Meaning, if you're a depth, if you're a myth, if you're an ice, you could affix these in PvE and do all kinds of crazy healing support with things like Sacrifice, Grendel's Amends, and the new Celestial Intervention. I think it really opens up the door for a lot more support. It's yet another reason why I think they should do something. I probably say this in every single video where I talk about a new PvE feature. I would love to see so many more challenging fights, especially outside of challenge mode, because if it's banned in PvP, then it's not allowed in challenge mode, right? You can't use this in challenge mode at all. But I would like to see them actually take difficulty to another level where things like this could actually help. Maybe a boss that counters, normally it counters like overtime heals, but it doesn't counter shields. So you have some kind of window where as an ice with outgoing, you could actually use this and keep your hitter alive. Right, a scenario where maybe Myth's ability to counter shields and weaknesses is really important, but also healing could be a nice thing. Have Myth shine a little bit. Right, there's definitely some kind of vacuum, I want to say, in terms of challenges that fit all of these new cool little updates where you really want to see these spells get used, but you don't end up seeing it because right now, really the only challenging stuff is challenge modes and raids, and those follow the rules where if something is banned in PvP, you can't use it. So all these cool little features they're only allowed in standard mode, which is so casual that you don't end up getting to see it. So while this is a really cool feature, I think this genuinely changes the way soloing works on Ice and Myth, and if you count the outgoing pin change for Depth, also Depth. I'd love to see in a team setting, especially since you could literally use these on other people, where this could help. I rarely see this, but I feel like Darkmoor's starting to get there. I'd love to see them get creative with fights, especially now that we have these new tools, especially on other schools that never had them before. Right, if every school has recoverability like this, as in you have Healing Current on the Storm, you have Availing Hands on the Ballad, you have obviously Satyr and all of those on the Life. Right, if every school has this, then you start getting into a scenario where fights can get more challenging, right? You have recoverability, you have access to outgoing. I will say this though, I think the most recent change to Grendel's Amends and Celestial Intervention, they're great for those schools for PvE and all of that. I just love that you actually have some kind of thing that you could do to recover your HP with your own school. I think what it does do, it really exposes one school that is supposed to actually have some sort of healing identity. It just exposes it as like real ass. And I'm talking, of course, about Fire. If y'all don't know, right, Fire's heals aren't even PvP banned because Fire is supposed to leverage healing. And yet, in terms of like creating heals naturally, it seems to suffer a lot of issues, right? One, all of its heals are overtime heals. And what do I mean by overtime heals? I'm talking about the things that have been in the game for a while, right? Things like Link, which is an overtime heal. Things like Power Link as well, right? These are overtime heal. These are also for some reason banned in PvP. I actually don't understand the reason for that. Someone that's smarter than me, maybe you can explain it. But even the heals that are allowed in PvP seem to run into this issue where you can generate heals, but they're always overtimes, and they're always one heal over time, meaning if you have a spell that actually benefits from having multiple heal overtimes, which Fire has a lot of library things with that. It's very hard to, like, you know, chain something together when you can't even put 2 heals on yourself with 1 spell. Right, they literally did this lore spell update, but Whiteheart Fire, there isn't even a version of this that's allowed in PvE that does a hit and a burst heal. That's something that we literally see with Barry, right? You can literally either do 700 damage or do a gigantic 995 burst heal with Barry, right? That's kind of fun. At least you could argue that Storm feels like a healing school with spells like this. They didn't even really do that for Fire, which is really weird. But also, you have all of these spells that do way extra things when you give up multiple heal overtimes, and it's just so hard to get multiple heal overtimes. I think you're pretty lucky if you can get 1 heal overtime and make it work. It's very hard to really do more than that, especially when we're talking about things like PvP. While it's really cool that Celestial Intervention and Grendel's gives Myth and Ice way more options and support roles and soloing, I'd love to see that for Fire as well. Something more along the lines of burst heals in PvE and better ways to leverage healing in PvP. I feel like those are both things that Fire is really lacking. It is worth noting that Fire is also really functional when it comes to its trap identity, its damage overtime identity. Even when it comes to things like its stat profile, you really do see it have a little bit of extra health, a little bit of extra pierce. It's not like Fire's bad in any sense of the word. I just think it's very weird to do this big sprawling update where you add all this outgoing, add all these lore spells that heal for all these schools that have never healed, and Fire is the way that it is. It seems like the one oversight, so hopefully that's something they keep in mind when they, you know, give us our next set of lore spells, which could be literally as soon as next year early. Like, it could be spring or summer update. That's normally when they add a new lore spell for every single school. I think that'd be a great time, especially if you want to add a PvE only path to give Fire some kind of burst healing so it can also do things in a solo setting that every other school can officially do. But I would love to hear y'all's thoughts. If you didn't know about the new Celestial Intervention, the new Grendel's Amends, what are y'all thoughts on durability now to support or solo on those schools? And how do y'all think Fire fits into all of this? Do you guys like where Fire is? Or do you think as a healing identity school, it should have a little bit more now that it seems to be behind, especially in PvE, compared to schools that aren't even healing? Let me know y'all's thoughts. I just thought I'd make this video because I really think this is something they're gonna, like, you know, work with in the future, especially now that every school has a little bit of this going for them. But I look forward to reading y'all's thoughts in the comments. Drop a like if you enjoyed, y'all. Leave a sub if you're new. And if somebody hasn't told you're awesome today, they doing something wrong. Stay awesome, y'all. See y'all soon. And yeah.